I'm going to talk a bit about Jhumpa Lahiri's Interpreter of Maladies. This is going to be a shorter review for reasons that I'll get into, but this book is a collection of short stories that won the Pulitzer Prize in 2001, I think. No, 2000. Jhumpa Lahiri is a writer who was born in London, England. She is the daughter of Indian-born parents who, when she was a little girl, immigrated to the United States and lived in Rhode Island. And she remained based in the New England area, which is why the settings of a lot of her works are either New York City or Boston, such as the novel The Namesake, which I read about a year ago maybe. She's primarily interested in relationships, especially relationships involving one or more immigrants or first-generation Americans. I think so well and so seamlessly she illustrates kind of this portrait of the process of cultural assimilation and the complexities that come along with that, and also cultural exchange. I do think that she is a gifted writer and is a natural storyteller, and because of that her works are very accessible and generally quick reads. I read The Namesake in just a few days, and Interpreter of Maladies I think you could probably finish in 2 or 3 days. Even though they are quick reads, I think that they really explore big ideas within the human experience. I have to say, I find myself not really being able to retain a lot of the content of her works, but I always know that when I'm reading her works, in the moment, I'm really enjoying the writing. So for The Namesake, I remember the general plot and the conflicts in the book, but I don't remember such things like why is it called The Namesake, or I don't remember how that novel ends, or why the main character is named Gogol. But I do remember that those are very important things to the story. And I think that that lack of ability to retain what's in the book, or in this case in the short stories, is kind of my own fault. I don't think that it's inherent in the writing itself. So although I do plan to read a bit more of Lahiri's work, I don't really vibe as much with the writing as I do other authors. But to get into some of the attributes of her writing, she's very interested in smaller anecdotes in people's lives in these stories in Interpreter of Maladies. In the first story, there's a couple whose power goes out, and only in the darkness over dinner can they find themselves being able to talk openly and honestly about themselves and about their relationship with one another. The second story, which I think is the title story, is about a woman who confides in her taxi driver a secret about her family, perhaps due to her own desperation and unhappiness within the family dynamic. And since many of Lahiri's characters are first-generation Americans or are immigrants, I can't help but wonder if their problems stem from the infliction of Western culture and kind of the norms around family dynamics, or from a general ease of living here that's different from elsewhere. So even though I don't really find the characters that memorable in Interpreter of Maladies, I think that the situations themselves raise very interesting issues that I've not really thought about before. And it's for that very fact that I do think Interpreter of Maladies is worth reading, and it's generally accessible to all, though it may especially resonate in people very similar to Lahiri or to her characters who are experiencing new ways of life in new countries. So that's really all that I'm going to say about Interpreter of Maladies. The stories are pretty short. I think the longest one is, I don't know, maybe about 30 pages. The shortest one is about 13. So it's very approachable, and I think it is such a good introduction to the rest of her works.